friends, and others. Wanted to do a video. I've been thinking about it. Actually, I mentioned some of it in my last video. I don't know if I did one on month 16 or if I just mentioned it in a few other videos, but those of you who've been following along are probably aware that for whatever reason, I have been feeling like doing like countdowns and count up energies. I'm intuiting them. I'm flowing with the Empress energy of intuition. And month 16 or month 15 is part of a 21-month countdown. And some things have changed in the timelines, like even my own personal ones. So, and I don't know all of the collective ones. Like I'm one human being. I can only get so much psychic data as even if I could take it all in, I could only grab so much. You know what I mean? I think that's probably why there are so many intuitives and psychics and why everyone has the ability. Um, but no, so we're in month 15. It's been mostly lined up with the different sign seasons, but it is a little bit off. So we are now in Aries season, and we're in month 16 or month 15. We're still coming out. We're still feeling the energy of month 16, and 16 in the tarot deck is the Tower. So like series of like enlightenments and like false foundations falling apart and crumbling, things like that, different shakeups, changing things, stuff like that. And now in month 15, it sits with the Devil card, which I feel like the first important thing to always say is like it's one of the most misunderstood cards in the tarot deck. That and the Death card, but the the Devil card, it feels like that energy in and of itself is a part of this energy, like understanding and being misunderstood. They're like upright and reverse type meanings, right? And so there's a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of that energy of like whatever things were happening in month 16, so the last month, or you could go with like Pisces season for you. Whatever things were misunderstandings or misrepresentations or things like that, those were probably a lot of what had to do with the towers that went on. And or it might, you know what? I'm getting an extra energy. It's not a this or that. It's both energies. So that first one, and the second one is that like if you've been in a place of like maybe people have been misrepresenting you or people have been being tricksters, which the devil card can symbolize in some of it. Like if you look at the card, the devil is not like holding the chains of the two people in there, and they could get out. It's like loose, they have their hands available, but it signifies that, that we can trick ourselves into feeling like we're trapped or we're in bondage or we're stuck to something or a slave to something. And that could be the devil within, it could be the devil without, either way. Like it could be that if in the past you were like you felt bound to a situation where you were being misrepresented, or maybe you had to misrepresent yourself in order to survive it or get through it or make changes of it. And it feels like in this time, I mean, assuming in this season, month 15 and Aries season, that you have done you have worked on you. If you've been telling the truth, if you've been, willing to stand alone when you needed to stand alone, if you've been willing to, like, there's a lot of energy going on with Jupiter and Pisces, which is also met some conjunctions with Saturn both today and yesterday, which is interesting, and they're relatable to the Great Conjunction on December 21st, 2021. But they're not as big, but they're still there. And with Jupiter being in Pisces, we have a lot of this energy of like compassion meets repaying karmic debts and getting repaid karmic debts. And it's also in this space of like if you have been misrepresented or if there have been others who have been like writing on your energy or like um, putting you in binds or getting you into bonds that you didn't consent to, things of that nature, like you get out of those, your I want to say your reputation is restored. You get that karmic justice on your side, and in any places where you have been unjust, like that also, you will pay those dues. And it's all going to be kind of like it's funny because I've been seeing like when my son and I go shopping or when I go door dashing and things like that, there's like the whole world is kind of feeling much more of this like compassionate and kind energy. Though I'm not surprised to see that month 15 aligning with the devil card also aligns with Aries season energy and that Jupiter and Pisces energy. Like, and we see a double Capricorn element in there too, with it being the Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, and Devil is it's associated with the Capricorn energy also. So we have like a lot of this Saturnian like it's time to grow up energy, but it's like been sauteed in this Pisces energy of like compassion and kindness and love and forgiveness and and things of that nature, but it also lines up with like so if we look at the devil card, like that can be like getting into connections and relationships and situations that are not good for us, but they satisfy some sort of like instant gratification. It could be even like maybe you got into a relationship with someone because you didn't feel like you could manage it alone financially, right? And maybe it's that you're worried about being homeless or you're worried about your stuff or things like that, so you satisfy and you get that instant gratification of knowing you don't have to like pick up all your stuff and go right away, and so that feels to like your brain like it's safety, and so you choose that even if the situation is like incredibly toxic. And it's situations like that, or maybe you stay at a job that you hate because it's paying the bills, but you take shit all the time from it, and it like wears on you, or you have to work a lot of extra hours to do it, or something like that. Um, these can be aspects of both the devil and like I'm going to say Saturn reversed energy or Capricorn reversed energy in there, and then you add in that Pisces energy, and like if you're stuck in those situations, like that Pisces energy, especially Jupiter and Pisces, which is going to give this whole year like a Piscean theme to it, like on the reversed aspects of those, like you can get caught in fantasy and dreamland and being a little more promiscuous and you know being passive, allowing things to just continue to happen as they are, and getting into depression energy. And with the devil card too, I mean, both those we see like addiction and codependence and toxic conditioning and toxic masculinity, toxic femininity, and also the devil card being 15, it reduces to 6, which is the lovers card, and I've always associated the two together. Like, when you have the lovers alone, you don't necessarily also have the devil card. However, when you have the devil card, you also always have the lovers within it. And for me, what that tends to signify is like our connections to each other, whether it be in, an intimate relationship or collectively or communities or things like that, even parent-child kind of stuff. Like it really touches upon those wounds and shadows and traumas and things of that nature that we try not to think about or look at, like we or but we end up, because we don't look at them, because we don't heal them, we don't face them, we don't grow, then we end up repeating them, like rather than like just facing them in our minds and going through a few things and being done with it. We just keep doing those cycles over and over and over again, and those most often play out in our familial relationships, our romantic relationships, and our relationships with our children and friends and things like that. So like, if you've been allowing yourself to be the one who, basically the one who gets used in every way or doesn't get listened to and things like that, well, that will intensify, And whereas if you've been in a space of standing your ground and saying, I deserve respect and I respect myself enough that I'm going to give distance to anyone who is not respecting me in ways that I deserve to be respected, you may have had some time where you've been more alone or you've not had a lot of support or things like that. Or maybe it's been different dynamics for you, but you've gotten away from those old cycles, from those old dynamics. And so, you kind of get I want to say a double blessing, sort of like the double intuition of feminine, right? You kind of get a double blessing in that sense to where you get more uplifted, you get more compassion, more kindness, and you get more of whatever you've been putting out, especially over the last like 2 to 3 years. Like if you've been putting, like you get what you give. So like if you've been given like 80% kindness, love, reassurance, you've been doing healthy stuff, you've been facing your shadow work, doing your light work, doing, being good to yourself and as good as you can be to others, you know, you're going to 80% of that you're going to get back. Whereas like if you've spent 80% of your time not being accountable, well, yes, Saturn's going to be putting a wire in your butt. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna get you there quickly. And if you've been avoiding things, if you've been like racking up debts, if you've been building things on false foundations, if you've been entangled with others and or entangling others, if you've been gaslighting yourself or like colluding and gaslighting others, especially anything to do with children, like the devil card is, it's definitely got a note of innocence, of that like conditioning we go through as children. And then also Aries, even though it like the Emperor card is the strongest representation in tarot for it, it is also the infant of the zodiac. So like we do see a lot of like things that may have happened to us as babies or small children or even older children and stuff, like those parts that have affected us for the rest of our lives will be like right in front of us, if we've not been facing our stuff for the last few years. If you have, you don't need to worry about that so much, but there will likely be others around you who are going through those things. And, remember that, the karma you build up now will affect you later in other moments and stuff. So, be kind and compassionate, and be humble. It's always good to have humility as much as you can. And, you're allowed to have moments where you brag and you talk well of yourself. It's not conceit, it's self love. However, there is a line, there is a balance. Um, and like, I do think that's an interesting thing too, lining up with the element of innocence in the Devil card, and then the Aries, like infant energy. It's like going back to that place within ourselves where we're like either we've already rewired our inner child, or it's time to get to work on that. And I've been seeing like a real increase just in like random places and random websites and things that show me that the whole world is kind of getting on to this thing of like self help and self love and self sustainability and being better to children and things of that nature. And really getting on with being much more compassionate, even with people that, in the past we've been like at war with ourselves. And some of that is still playing out, like both worldwide and smaller collectives and communities and things like that. But it's also like everything goes in certain cycles and up cycles. So it's like we're still we're still going to go through cycles where we may be at war with ourselves, or we may be at war with our loved ones, or we may be at war with others, or ideologically at war and things like that. But these are the times where you get the chance to make the decision. Next time you're triggered by, let's say you're driving and somebody drives dangerously and like cuts you off. Most people naturally, or not naturally, it's actually not natural, it's conditioned. Most people will be like something in their head like, hey, F you, man, what the hell are you doing? But what you want to do is retrain yourself. Like, even if you think that or say that at first, like, quickly catch yourself and go, you know what? I actually send you love and light and safety, that you get where you need to go safely and at a good time, because obviously you would not have done that if you didn't feel like it, like a panic in that space. Because even people who would qualify as actually being a jerk, like, think about how did they get there? Like, no baby is born in a space where they would do that kind of thing, on in that way. Like, we become the people we become because of those around us and how they shape things and the energy they put out into the world. And I want to emphasize too that with the devil card, and emperor energy from Aries, we want to make sure that through month 15, as Saturn is dancing around everything and Pisces is all laced into all the energy of Jupiter with expansion and abundance and magic and things like that, that we really challenge ourselves. Not even challenge, I want to say it's like softer than that, that we like allow in opportunities for when we feel angry, reactive, righteously indignant, frustrated, anything of that nature, that we stop and use like our higher mind. We practice being our better self like consistently. Like a lot of the world has gotten into a space of like relaxing into their shadow self 80% of the time and only being their better self like 20%, if that. You want to reverse that. Like you want to be your better self 80% of the time, and then you got your shadow self, your ego, and stuff like that. 20% is more than enough. You don't even really need to use that much. You could probably go 90% of the time in your better self, and you will feel better. People around you will feel better. The whole world will benefit, and things will ease up, and you'll be going downstream instead of upstream. So like you're not struggling, you're just flowing with things, right? Because with Mars and Saturn energy all over the place, and we still have Mars, Venus, and Saturn all dancing with each other too. So there's a lot of Mars energy in here, and so like there will be plenty of moments where you basically want to stop, take some real deep breaths, and think about what you're going to say before you say it, or text it, or email it, or sign it, or things like that. Especially because anything that we sign, like even within the last week or two, anything that is signed, especially legal documents, things of that nature, like those are really they're going to have a strong hold. You know what I mean? They're going to be lasting things, and they're going to be things that like make sure that what you get into are things that you don't mind everybody knowing about, because all of the energy that we have between the devil card can often represent gossip and things like that, and the emperor card is about like the kingdom, you know what I mean? And then with all this Pisces energy in there and Jupiter in there, like we're likely to expand on talking about things, not push them under the rug anymore. And anyone who's trying to push things under the rug, like if you haven't noticed, like even I don't read the news a lot, but I do keep up with things here and there, and I do pass by a lot of newspapers, so I see plenty of things. And like people that would have in the past been easily able to like lean into their south node and do shadowy things and get away with it, it's not happening anymore. And like there's like a collective lifting of like deceptiveness, so it's like truth is coming out. And it's one of those like Saturn really comes in with that energy, and so does Pisces too, and it really calls you to like live in your authenticity, and really to live towards your heart and your higher mind. And if you're not, like it's like a trying to think of something. It's like I don't know, if you try to go in and like you walk towards sheep and like everybody separates, or if you have cockroaches or something and like the light turns on and they all scurry, right? Like this energy is coming in, and it's like it's going to keep shining on those places where there are wounds and traumas and things needing healing, and it's also going to keep shining light on things that are healed and whole and uplifted, and bringing goodness in, because like that's what spirit wants to bring in. That's what people have been calling in. Like, we called in the quarantine stuff. We called in everything else that came in. We wanted, we call in the light and the shadow of all things. And now we're bringing it into that space of like compassion and balance and justice and imagination and magic and things of that nature. And it's definitely going to be an interesting year, but I think, the lineup of month 15 with Aries season and Saturn dancing around all this stuff is like this is it feels like the things that you've seen up to this point, like especially since we started into Aries season, because that's the astrological new year, and for me it lines up a lot more with the other stuff that I'm working with. So like the stuff that you've seen since like mid-March going on is likely to be, that it's kind of the highlight of what you're looking at for like the rest of the month for sure, and then it's also going to, permeate the rest of the year, especially as we head towards the first full moon of the astrological new year, the pink moon, which that's about renewal, repairing things, reconciliations, reciprocity, things of that nature. And that, that also fits in with the Emperor card, that reciprocity, and even the Devil card. Like, you get what you give. And so you probably already started seeing what sort of energy is around you, is coming to you, is within you. Like, how do you feel? If you feel pretty good, you feel grateful, you feel like things are going pretty good in your direction, you've got options and opportunities and things of that nature, then you're going to see more of that. And that's also why it's important to watch, your thoughts and things. You want to get to a place where you're mindful, because with all this Jupiter and Pisces energy, manifestation energy, like thoughts becoming things, is even stronger. And so, like, what you think about most often is what you're going to manifest. So, like, if you're thinking about disasters and, oh my gosh, everyone's going to know my secrets, and oh my gosh, what am I going to do about this or what about that? That's what you manifest. Whereas if you're in a space of, like, you know what, I know I always have more than enough. I always have people to help if I need to. I'm always more than enough on my own. There will always be spaces and places and opportunities and options and things, and I feel grateful for this stuff, and like, I let myself have all my emotions, and I center myself in gratefulness and kindness and joy. Like, if you can be in that space, you're gonna go downstream, while everyone in the other space goes upstream, and Saturn does its magic with them. um, and as a Capricorn stellium myself, yes, like, it's much better to listen to Saturn before Saturn comes in and kicks you in the butt. But it's also worth getting, going through the memories and the emotions and the learning lessons that come along with deciding to not do the right thing. Because Saturn and Devil card and the Emperor card all have a lot to do with ego. But a lot of times we either get into space of assuming that we must have no ego, like we can't ever have a selfish want or need or anything like that. We must completely give ourselves over to everyone else. But that's actually also ego. Like, that's about, like, a sense of gratification that you're selfless enough, you know what I mean? Things like that. Or you get the other side where you get so egotistical and prideful that you're just completely selfish in negative ways, and greedy and over focused on really unimportant things. But really, what you want is a place in the middle. Like, ego is a part of you. It's a part of this human experience. And, like, if you didn't have ego, you couldn't enjoy your favorite ice cream or your favorite cookie or your favorite pie, like whatever the thing is, or your favorite book, your favorite movie. Like, you couldn't actually even enjoy the process of spirituality if you did not have ego. So, like, there is a balance in there. And, the human experience is not one of complete light or complete shadow. It is a mixture of both. And when you get more metacognitive about that, you can get to a space where you can recognize that and consciously choose what elements you want to play with, but you can't get out of them. And I think that's also going to be an emphasis on, the devil card thing. So, like, look at, where your places where you want to improve more. Like, if you're not as productive, it's a good time to work on productivity, and, like, spirit will, and especially Saturn will gladly bring in moments where you can work on that. If you need to work on debt, that's something would be good to work on. If you have communication issues, or if you, especially boundaries are going to be a huge energy. Like, all of those Saturn, Jupiter, Emperor, Aries, Capricorn, Devil card, all of it is about boundaries. Especially because often we get into Devil card type situations and relationships because we don't have healthy boundaries, or we allowed some unhealthy boundaries to play out. We did not have good communication skills. So this is definitely going to be one where it's like, you know, try to be in your integrity as much as you can be. Definitely with Capricorn and Saturn energy, like, doing the right thing even when no one's looking, because you will keep getting caught, and so your best bet is to do it correctly. Do it the first time. Do it, put your best effort into it and stuff, like. And if you don't, you'll get enough lessons until you do. Saturn will make it hurt, but definitely with the boundaries, like, it's something that you hold yourself to, right? And that will become a part of your story for a little bit. And remember also that your internal boundaries, like, you may have some moments where you get caught in, what do you call it, your sloth, or your, um, the places where you have not been having integrity. However, you get the decision to decide, is this the universe punishing you, or is this the universe helping you get better? I like to think of the second one myself. That's where I will be sitting in this energy. Because I'm not exempt from any of that stuff either, and I have my own stuff to work on as well. But I'm grateful for those experiences. Sometimes, yes, they come in and it's a little like emotional getting through it, but once we get there, I always recognize this was help. This was a gift. This was a blessing, not a kick in the teeth. All right, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and end this here. I hope that you enjoyed this download, and I will catch you in the next video.